Good morning.
Morning.
In my icebreaker, I wanted the group that was new to me to understand who I am. And to understand who I am, you need to understand where I've been and where I come from. And that's done through a lot of labels that I've put on myself. I am a daughter, a granddaughter. I'm a niece to a lot of wonderful aunts and uncles, a cousin, a sister, a grandmother, and in the last couple of years I've become an aunt myself. But to really know who I am, you have to understand the labels that I had as a child. I am a Yooper. I come from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we are known as Yoopers. Who here knew that? The Upper Peninsula is a beautiful place to be from, of course, very cold. I grew up on a dairy farm. At the age of 6, I moved in with my grandparents after my mother had died, and I started living on a dairy farm. We were a grade A dairy farm. We shipped milk at that time to Fairmont Dairy. And the first chore that I learned to do as a child was gather eggs. My grandmother would put what she called a babushka on our head and tie it and tell us, don't remove this because you may get lice from the chickens. And so we always left the babushka securely on our head. We had little aprons with pockets, and we had to go into the chicken coop and gather eggs. And when you go to put your hand underneath the chicken, protecting what she hopes to be her brood, they hiss at you, they peck at you, they fly in your face. When you're 5 and 6 years old, it can be pretty terrifying. But we made it through that. And then to be a grade A dairy farm, they said, you shouldn't have chickens within so many feet of cows. And we were all happy to sit on a fence and watch my grandfather and uncle slaughter the chickens. And the chickens run around with their heads cut off. That's me. I was a happy camper at that time. The next chore we had was barn cleaning. We would have to go and scrape the walks of the barn after they let the cows in or out, and feed the cows. When you progressed to a little bit older, you learned how to wash the cows before milking. And then you got to the age where you got to milk the cows. Before this age, when it was official milking, we would just go in and milk the cows secretly to feed the cats or the dog. Now, when you start to milk a cow, that starts to release their milk. And so inevitably, my grandfather, who was a little German man, would come in and say some things in German that I'm still not sure what they were, but he would complain about having all these grandkids who were wasting all this milk by going and milking cows before milking time. And, you know, my recollection, it was a little puddle, but to him, it was a big deal. So we were milkers. And when the milk inspectors came, they would call my cousins and I dairy maids. Do not call me a dairy maid. Right? Was not a happy label. Then we learned how to pick rocks. Up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, you pick rocks off of 40, 60-acre fields because some of these rocks can be very big. I've learned since then through science that even though you can clear a field 1 year of all the rocks, the next year more will appear because of rotation of the earth and them coming up. Did you know that? I thought we just had a great crop of rocks. But I had an uncle who would come and visit on the weekends when we had to pick rocks. And he always tried to make it fun for us. So here we were, my cousins and myself, with our canvas gloves on that my grandmother bought by the boxfuls for hay baling and stone picking. And my uncle would walk along the trailer that we were to put the rocks on and sing songs and tell us, aren't we all having fun at Camp Stony today? And this was our recreation. He is our favorite uncle now, but I'm not quite sure why, because at that time we found him very irritating. I'm also an equestrian. I had a horse that I begged for months, and when it became, my birthday is in April, when it was February and I discovered the horse that was the love of my life, every night I would use my secret weapon to coerce my grandfather into buying me this horse, because his famous words were, "I have never paid that much for a horse in my life, and I'm not about to start with yours." So every night when we'd sit down at the dinner table, and my grandfather would say, "Donna, would you say grace?" I would thank God for the food that we were about to receive, and dear God, my birthday's coming up in April, and may I please receive that horse. Needless to say, April 26th, the horse arrived on a cattle truck. Prayer does work, as well as making sure that your grandfather hears them. Those are some of the labels that I grew up with. I'm also great at hay baling. We used to get in great big wagons of baled hay that my grandfather would run the tractor for. And if you've ever baled hay, you'll learn that you can be tossing those bales one by one, and it's going along fine, and suddenly you hit the green one. The green one is the still green wet grass, and suddenly you went from doing this to going and being stuck and dragging this bale along. Those are the things that we did as kids. I won't go into all the things that we got in trouble for, but living on a dairy farm made me the person I am. I think I'm a hard worker, I'm industrious, and all the people that surrounded me through that time of my life made me the person that today works with seniors, does reverse mortgages, and is glad to be a niece, a granddaughter, a sister, a grandmother, an aunt. Those are the labels that I love the most. Thank you.